Hello, I'm Colin Green, and this is Spike Pit. Today, I want to talk about this question: what is Dungeons and Dragons? Now, there's a lot of talk about Dungeons and Dragons. It's really enjoying a growth in popularity at present. But I don't just want to talk about mainstream Dungeons and Dragons and popular Dungeons and Dragons because it's a personal thing. I want to talk about my Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing since I was a real young kid in primary school. In fact, we're talking back in it's around 80, 81. And I've got props. Now, the edition, because D&D comes in various editions. This here is one of my early editions. This is Basic Dungeons and Dragons. It's the Holmes edition. But we soon moved on from that. And the game I played far and away the most was Redbox Basic. Frank Mensa. And I've got my original copy here to show you. And who could not be drawn in by that gorgeous artwork? Oh my goodness. Totally captured my imagination. At the time I was playing chess, doing little stick figure drawings. I remember Empire Strikes Back being out and being into Star Wars. But I could talk about that kind of nostalgia forever. Dungeons and Dragons is a role-playing game. And it was shown to me by Mrs. McConaughey. She was my old teacher of Blue class. She put a little group of us together and introduced us to role-playing. So what is role-playing, you ask yourself? Well, you can certainly overthink it. There's a lot that gets talked about, but in its simplest form, you have someone running the game, and in Dungeons and Dragons, you'd call them the Dungeon Master. You call them what you like. I mean, I've been called worse. But typically, the Dungeon Master is the person who figures out what the world is going to involve and present it to the group. Now, these are the players, and they would have an avatar in the game, a character. So the role is the character, and you are portraying that character's role in the story. The Dungeon Master will present you with a situation, and you will describe what you would like your character to do. Now, there are a set of rules to govern how this all works, and the combination of rules and a randomizer in the form of dice that controls the action in the game. Your character in the tale of adventure will come against challenges, meet adversaries. We often joke about this in the hobby as killing monsters and taking their stuff, because on this adventure you are quite often a bunch of somewhat shady heroes who are trying to advance their own aims through the acquisition of wealth. This traditionally was represented by gaining what we call experience points and moving up through various levels. You don't need to spend vast amounts of money to get into this hobby. Remember that picture? Yep. I love it so much that I've taken the 3 rules from a company called Wizards of the Coast. They produce a document called the Basic Rules. I've put it in this presentation folder, and that serves as my kind of go-to rule book. Done on the cheap. It's a couple of pounds for this, but the writing is a little bit small. That travels about with me. It's handy. I can put little things in there like a character sheet, a map at the back that I've drawn, stuff like that, and it's super adaptable. Now, if you wanted to save up all your pennies and go out and spend some of them, you could do a lot worse than picking up something like that. This is one of the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition starter sets. Now, if you're new to the hobby, you're not going to be talking about editions. Don't get hung up on it. There is a thing called the Edition Wars. They're sort of supposed to be over, but they just rumble on, and all that is different flavours of Dungeons and Dragons. Is another old beat up book of mine. Different versions of Dungeons and Dragons have their own following, and the fandom around the various editions can be quite protective of its beloved version, and it's kind of understandable. I play all different versions, and I would encourage you to try different versions if you get the chance. What else can I tell you? So if you do spend out your money, you'll get this version of the rules. Now, I like this version of the rules. It's well slimmed down, but it's got everything you need to know. That's why, essentials. Combine this, if you want to spend a bit more, with the first starter set, which came with an adventure. Lost Mines of Phandelver. Once upon a time, we used to call these modules, adventure modules, and they were about this sort of size. I ran this with my group, dropping in my own stuff for over a year, and I think it cost me probably about 15 quid for that. I probably paid about 15 quid for the essentials kit. But I started back into D&D hardcore and doing my podcast when this edition came out, and I've got to say, I'm loving it. We talked about dice. See, I'm knocking everything on the floor now. Not very professional. In the essentials set, you also get a bunch. Yeah, this is just for John Large of Red Dice Diaries. Some red dice. I love them, and I keep them in a little zip up thingy that I've got my headphones in. So with these dice, opens up a world of possibilities. My folder with some notes. I'm missing an ingredient, an important ingredient to me, and that is this bad boy, the DM's Journal. See, look, the hat is back, the sun is out. See, the hat is in danger of taking over this channel of mine. Increase the ventilation. Yeah, this bad boy here, this is your DM's Journal. This is where you put all the goodies. You're not going to see a lot with the light. But see, yeah, vintage scrawlings. What else have we got here? So I did this colourful random character generation thing. I haven't said much about characters, have I? Now, if you're a little bit more tidy and you don't want to do your characters like I do, I'll just fire them into this big old book. Or I make custom character sheets with rules that fold out at the bottom. If you don't want to do it like that, and I've got to tell you, it can be a nuisance. Just have a notebook. You print out your character sheet. You get a notebook. Right, I like a nice hardback one, and then I just stick my character sheet in there like that. Look, they're not lost. You know where to find it. You can spend untold amounts of money on this game if you want. when you get sucked into this hobby, you'll buy book after book after book. But really, it don't need a lot. You can start for free. You don't even need to buy the dice. If you've got a phone, you can get an online dice roller. I mean, I like, I like the dice. I like the dice, but I'd be a liar if I said you needed them. You don't need any of this stuff. You just need a bit of imagination, a little bit of creativity. You need a story that you want to tell. I think you need someone to play the game with. Solo RPGs and role-playing games, they are a thing. Not so much for me, but perhaps that's something I could talk about another time. Now, I did another video, my first from the van kind of studio, talking about the OSR. And I kind of neglected to mention some of the key points about the OSR, and I was very pleased with the response. So anybody that's kind of made comments, some of my podcast listeners are on there, my patrons, the pit crew, they're on there, and they're kind of backfilling around all the bits that I've left out. You're going to find this is a feature with Old Spike Pit. He just rambles on, throws a little bit of the personal touch in, and no man is an island. Which reminds me, I've got a little visitor for you. D&D doesn't need to be too serious. This is Big Ears. I'd like to say hello to Big Ears. Hello. Oh, he's not waving properly. Hello. Yeah, so Big Ears is my daughter's animal companion in our campaign. So he joins us for our online game. He's a cool dude. And we made up some little rules for Big Ears because she plays a rogue, what we used to call a thief. She can do this thing called a sneak attack. And Big Ears is deployed to assist in that sneak attack. But these are all things that I will talk about another time. If you're a parent like me, talking about my daughter, and you're wondering whether D&D or role-playing games are a good fit for your family, be advised there is some content caution, but you don't have to follow the crowd. You can do your own thing. You can play this game any way you like. And in fact, lots of other games that are not D&D get called D&D, and the whole thing is a massive and confused blur. But we're not going to worry about that, because if your kids are infused and excited to be dreaming up these stories, maybe like mine, they like Harry Potter, The Hobbit, stuff like that. Maybe they like who knows what kids like. Maybe they like Warhammer 40k. Maybe they like I don't know. I don't think Care Bears are a thing anymore, are they? Fireman Sam, is he about Postman Pat? Anything you like, you could work it round to a game of D&D. And another thing, it's going to get your kids reading, the literacy, the numeracy, the creativity. It's just a winner. Teachers in my school when I was a kid, they were generally enthusiastic, and like I said, it was a teacher that taught me the game.